a Johnny Walker Black label. Not a fan of the blue or the red label. Like, I don't know. It doesn't hit as well with me.
Yeah, I love Walker. And if I'm really just feeling really crazy, I'll go just buy some Canadian Mist.
There you go.
I'm just kidding. No, it's that was back in my broke. All I can afford is the $9 bottle of whiskey.
Yeah.
This, but no, the XR and the black, the Crown Royal Black. I really like that.
Yeah.
And I'm not a big flavor, like I don't like sugary drinks, but I don't know what it is about the apple. I love the apple. That's about the only one I like as far as flavors.
I don't do the fruity flavors. I'm not a fan of it. But But the good thing about the cheap whiskey is that it tastes better the more that you drink.
Well, that's just about anything. Yeah, even the shitty vodka, it tastes good after a while. It's like,
the absolute, that gut rot nonsense. Oh my god! I remember when I was a teenager and I boosted a bottle of Absolute from my mom, and I regretted that ever since.
Yeah, there's certain cheap stuff you just shouldn't touch. It's just it's bad. The next day, it's really, really bad.
Black Velvet,
really bad. Oh god, the one I remember back in my super ghetto days, Wild Irish Rose.
No.
Oh my god, that was guaranteed to be a migraine the next morning.
You should never drink any kind of liquor in a plastic bottle. You should just tap out on that one right there.
Yeah, those were they were good nights, terrible mornings, terrible next mornings.
No kidding. I've only had two hangovers in my life, and both times it was because I drank tequila.
Oh, see, yeah, I feel like you might be a brother from another mother, because that's about the only hard liquor I refuse to touch. I drank it one time, and it's the only time that I remember like getting like throwing up like ridiculously sick.
Dude.
And then the next day, it felt like my head was going to explode.
Yeah, it was bad for me, man, because I didn't just drink the tequila. So I drank like a whole bottle of Jose Cuervo, which was a mistake in and of itself.
Oh god!
And then I drank on top of that a 6-pack and a half of Mike's Harder Lemonade.
Oh Jesus!
8% shit on top of that. 8%. Like I guess I was in like a suicidal state. I don't really remember a lot from that night.
Yeah, one of my I guess. Clinically, they call it a manic episodes or a manic episode. One of my manic episodes, this was in 2003. I went out about 3 or 4 days before my birthday. A bunch of friends wanted to take me out. And the amount of alcohol I drank that night was ungodly. And one of the things was they got me drinking these it's basically like a Long Island iced tea, but without like we were talking about, it wasn't so fruity tasting. But they were replacing because back then I didn't like vodka. They were replacing the vodka with 151. Let's just say the next morning when I did finally gain consciousness, I woke up. I woke up in the ICU at the local hospital. So it was no good, no bueno.
Sean commented, remind me to tell you about my tequila episode when I was 18. I will make sure that I hold that to you, Sean. We will be in Discord later, and I will make sure that you tell me all about that. That would be a very
there's a reason they call it tequila.
Exactly. I used to be a huge booze hound when I was younger. I've laid off of the booze recently, and I've just been chain smoking like a Soviet chimney in the middle of January.
Yeah, I'm a smoker as well. I have been a heavy smoker for a long time. And I recently
bringing Lucky Strikes back.
What's that?
We're bringing Lucky Strikes back.
Oh, really?
Yeah, wow. I see it's coming soon in my local smoke shop. They're bringing them back, and I was like, this is what I started on was Lucky Strike non-filters. Right? When I started smoking, my dad was like, he didn't really care, but I was smoking my mom's cigarette. She smoked the Marlboro Lights, and he's like, "No, you're not smoking bitch cigarettes." And he gave me a Lucky Strike non-filter, and he's like, "That's what you're gonna smoke if you're gonna smoke." And so he got me in love with the non-filters because I smoke the Camel non-filters now when I can afford them. They're like $9 a pack, and I live in Missouri, which is extraordinary. Like a Marlboro Red 100s are like $5 a pack.
Yeah, that would make me quit.
Yeah,
I don't pay that much.
Actually, because they don't sell enough of them, my local smoke shop had a sale on these. They were $2.50 a pack. I bought 40 of them.
Oh yeah, that cheap. Absolutely, you got to.
Oh yeah.
That's what the lucky
price one.
Yeah, that's a steal. Yeah, my grandpa, he's passed now. but he smoked Lucky Strike, and I remember that was the first like pack of cigarettes I remember seeing. So what I think is just like your classic just your man's man. I think about because of my grandpa is a pack of Lucky Strikes and then a can of Blue Ribbon. Like I
was never into the snuff though. I don't chew. I'm too vain about my teeth.
Yeah, I don't chew.
Yeah, I'm super into dental hygiene. You know, as my brother, I'm always brushing my teeth or using my water pick. My best feature. Ding. Yeah. Got this sparkle effect.
Cigarettes are great for our dental health.
That's true. They're phenomenal. Yeah, no, I gotta work overtime with the cigarettes with the whitening strips and stuff because they stain like a motherfucker. And then on top of that, I drink.
Welcome to the Atheist Roundtable live call-in show. I'm Pastor Mike. I got Ozzy, the kamikaze, and I got JT backstage in the Atheist green room, getting ready to take some calls. Taking shots of Atheist Patron or some shit. All right, now. Boy, we got a good show for you guys tonight. Thursday night, 9 p.m. sharp on the dot. Never late. Say what you want about the Atheist Roundtable. Tardy? Hell no. Tarty, more like. Check it out, 706-236-7608. That's the number. If you've got a deeply held belief, holla at your boys. Look, big shout out to all the blue wrenches tonight, all the mods. Hey, look, if you got a blue wrench, shout out to you tonight. Big respect to all the followers. Please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hop on over to TART.live. Join the community. Hey, I was chatting with Oz backstage earlier. We got a couple of surprise guests popping in tonight, from what I understand. Stay tuned. As soon as these motherfuckers get out the atheist hot tub, we'll get this show on the road, as they say. Again, 706-236-7608. Save that shit in your phones. If you have a deeply held belief and you want to chat about it, or if you just want to call up and talk about Batman or Scooby-Doo, Abe Lincoln, ghosts, I don't care. Chop it up is what they say. Hey, look, I'm looking around. I'm seeing some folks. Looking in the chat. I think we're going to have a good show tonight. One of the things I want to talk about is whether or not a belief deserves respect. Do you automatically deserve respect because you believe a particular thing? What are your thoughts? (706-236-7608). Call in. We'll talk about whether or not your belief deserves respect. I believe everybody should have pizza. Everybody. Atheist pizza. Pineapples? I don't know. That's up to you guys. I don't care. I'm down for it. Tighten your anus. What you reckon, man? Hey, big shout going out to the TART crew. Okay, we got, check out all this testosterone right here. We got Benji, Murdershed Steven, Ozzy, Just Jeffrey, the weasel face troll, the trolly bastard, the notorious troll, Pasta Mike. But we got goddamn K-Nevs up in the house now. Warm welcome to K-Nevs on the group. Finally got a female on the squad, you know? Keep us all in check, I guess. Anyway, should we get this party started? At the Atheist Roundtable.
What's up, JT?
What's going on, Oz?
Feeling good. Everybody, welcome to the TART Live call-in show. I'm your host, Oz, and the number, if you want to call in to talk to JT and myself, it's there at the bottom, but 706-236-7608. And while we're waiting on calls, Pasta talked about it, kind of the topic as we're, in between calls and having our conversation is, do beliefs deserve respect? Should we respect beliefs? So I already know my answer to that and where I sit. But JT, you're the guest of the evening right now. Where do you stand there? What do you think?
I think that beliefs line up with people. You respect them if they earn respect. Like, some people have respectable beliefs about the world and how they should interact with other people, and some people don't. And depending on what your beliefs are, you can actually gain or lose respect as a result of that. Like, I don't think anybody would respect, say, a neo-Nazi or some other flavor of racial supremacist, or and this is me wishful thinking, but flat earthers, anti-vaxxers, the kind of people who have beliefs about the world that give them this sort of malicious outlook on life and on how they interact with other individuals.
Right, and I can respect that position on it. But when we talk about specifically, if we're going to talk about a God belief,
right,
religious belief, there's not very many of them that I don't know if there's any of them so far that I feel like I need to respect it. Because like you said, whether it goes back to the, earning respect or, however you want to define that, the way I look at it is I will respect the human regardless of what God belief, that they subscribe to. I'll respect you as a human being. I have zero responsibility, and I don't owe your belief any respect. And I will shoot all the holes in that belief as I can, respectfully. But I don't have to respect the belief, regardless of the God.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think that you should respect any belief that's predicated on bad reasoning. People should feel socially guilty for believing in things for bad reasons. I think that if we had more of a respect for good ideas and good reasoning, more of a reverence for that, then people would be more inclined to irk away from ideas that get them stigmatized in that way. But unfortunately, what we see is the opposite effect. Usually, when people act or treat certain beliefs or convictions with derision, the individual who believes that thing or holds that conviction is just even further reinforced in the idea. They're even more hesitant to let go of it, which is an interesting psychological phenomenon that maybe we'll find the answers for in the future. But as of right now, I don't hold out a lot of hope, or should I say, I don't hold out a lot of faith.
Oh boy, that's a whole other conversation. But as far as the respecting the belief, because I don't, I know you put a lot of content out on TikTok, and I'm sure that you have to hear something like this or similar to what I'm going to share here. A lot of times I hear, well, Oz, it's my belief, and I believe it's real. So because I believe it's real, you should respect the belief. And I always push back and I say, no, that's you feeling entitled to your belief and entitled to the fact that I should respect your belief because that's what you believe. But that's not how this party works. I should be able to challenge your belief and ask questions. And as soon as you feel like your belief should not be questioned and should not be challenged, there within lies the problem for me, because now, is it truly a justified belief, or is it an emotional tie or an emotional security that you have that you don't want to have it challenged?
Yeah, I would say that for a lot of people, they've been taught since childhood as a consequence of sort of the more modern generation that you should respect everybody's beliefs and that there are certain conversations you shouldn't have with people, like politics and religion. I can't tell you how many times growing up I was told you don't talk about politics and religion. Those are the most important conversations to have. But unfortunately, we've bred an entire generation of people to steer from those conversations that
Absolutely.
now the vast majority of people that you encounter don't know how to talk about it, because people will root their identity in what they believe. So when you criticize their ideas, they feel like you're criticizing them, and they don't have the capacity to distinguish between the two.
Yeah, and if we zero down a little further and talk about Christianity for a second, JT, I don't know how much you know about my past, but being a Christian for 30 plus years, I could speak to the identity part of it very, very strongly, and even tie it back to what you just said. What was brilliant a minute ago, as far as the we've been taught, or a generation has been taught, we don't discuss religion, politics, things like that, because it's just going to get messy. Well, it should get messy, because those things should be challenged. We shouldn't just accept those things for just because it feels good to accept them. It provides us some type of security. But through that belief system, if we get to the place where we just we buy it, I guess, or we believe it, and we haven't evaluated all of the possible options and been shown how to apply critical thinking and logic and be skeptical, is it really a justified belief? And that's the problem when I have these conversations, is you have not been skeptical. You just took the first thing that was given to you and you bought into it without it being overlaid with skepticism or critical thinking.
Yeah, no doubt. And then to make matters worse than that, sometimes people will be cultivated or inculcated with these beliefs, and then they will work backwards from a presupposed conclusion and try to find justifications for it after the fact, which leads them into sort of this fractal tree of bad reasoning and bad analysis. because no matter what their reason is or whatever argument they use, it must round back to their conclusion. And if it doesn't, it doesn't matter. They just rely back on other affirmations or justifications like spiritual faith, which I made a jab at a minute ago. I've been going rounds with a couple of people on TikTok over what it means to have faith in something. But the general idea is that religious people tend to know that they believe in their religion for not so good reasons, right. At least for reasons devoid of tangible evidence. More of, I had an experience, or it feels right, or, for example, like what you said, it's true for me but not for thee. And that's just not how these things work, because the problem is, if you believe in something to be objectively true about the world, okay, it's a truth claim about how reality is, then it is true for everybody if it is true. And it is false for everybody if it is false.
Right. Yeah. And real quick, Eddie, and I always like to make sure I address these things when they pop up. So Eddie said, whoa, Oz, hasty generalization, or psychoanalyst or analysis. No, not at all. Because here's the thing is, when you, I spend almost every single day of my life having these conversations now, whether it's on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, or even in my real life. Like, this is what I do. It's not a generalization. Now, there are some believers, Christians, theists, that are very well thought out, and they've done their best to walk through logic, reason, critical thinking. But they are they're in the minority. It's just point blank that they are in the minority. Majority of, especially Christians, but Christian theists, they don't do their homework. I know tons of atheists that know more about the actual Bible and what the text says than your run-of-the-mill, average everyday Christian. So that, and which is another reason that I don't respect the belief, because usually it's just they do it because that's what's popular, that's what's accepted, that's what's expected of them from their family, their peers, that kind of thing, without, again, applying critical thinking and skepticism.
Yeah, no, I might be a little bit more callous with this, but I think that there's a lot of philosophers that have somewhat sound justifications for believing in the existence of God. At least so far as we define God as just this, intentful agent that has some sort of power or control over our reality. I don't think, however, there are any sound justifications for believing specifically in the religion of Christianity or in any other human religion for that matter. So I'm not going to single Christianity out there, but I don't think that any of the modern religions have sound justification. And I think that the attempts to justify them are ad hoc. The people who are trying to find evidence for Christianity are already Christians, right? So it doesn't matter if their pursuit of evidence is, fruitless. They're going to rely on other reasons to believe anyway. So they make a mistake by trying to argue on that level anyways, because they know, at least deep down, that the tangible evidence for this is nil, and their religious doctrines even prepare them for this. You're going to be laughed at or mocked for your beliefs. People are going to tell you that God's not real, and it's all a test of your faith, right? And if you had genuine trust or confidence in something based on evidence, then there wouldn't be tests to your faith, unless those tests were contradictory evidence, right? But a belief that's not based on tangible evidence wouldn't be shaken by tangible evidence. And that's a problem in and of itself. Like Mark Twain once said, you cannot reason a man out of something he wasn't reasoned into.
Right. Yeah. And yes, I agree with everything you just said there. And it reminds me of Pasta on our outros on our regular TART Live shows, where we have one-on-one interviews with guests. At the end of it says, truth does not fear investigation, and, you don't, if your God was real and that the God claim was a truth claim or a true claim, it wouldn't be shook when people come around sniffing and prodding and inquiring about evidence, and things like that. So that's the first thing. Then I want to kind of go back a minute to what you said, because faith faith is, at the end of the day, the linchpin, or what holds up the Christian faith. In Romans it says that they are saved by grace through faith. So it's through faith in which they receive their salvation. Now, again, kind of poking a little fun on our intros at the end, we have a little thing that says faith is bullshit. And that's something that I've really adopted, because coming out of that, when I start to look at it now and I evaluate faith and what it is in the Bible, this is where I'm at. And JT, I've never had this conversation with you, so I'd love to hear your opinion on this. Faith to me in the Bible is probably the greatest sales bait ever created. Whether it was the Apostle Paul, whoever created that, was the greatest sales scheme ever, because literally it was made to where it doesn't matter if you have evidence, it doesn't matter if it makes sense, as long as you have faith, you get to live in heaven with this beautiful God and this beautiful kingdom forever and ever. And fuck the evidence, just have faith.
Right. And to be fair to any potential Christian scholars in the audience, that's primarily a Protestant belief. Catholics don't necessarily hold to that. So there is a degree of works that are supposed to go along with faith, or that when you have faith, you're supposed to demonstrate that through works. And if you're not doing good works, then you don't really have faith. There's a lot of weird theological justifications for that. But the general idea is that, you, at least in the Protestant churches, you get into heaven. Your afterlife is determined based on belief and not moral character, because no matter how heinous of a human being you are, you can always just ask for forgiveness. Even they try to preface that with you have to be sincere with your repenting, but what does that even mean, to be sincere? They say the same thing when they ask you to pray to God with sincerity, but does that really mean anything? Could you pray to a God you didn't believe in with sincerity? If I were to do something with sincerity, it would mean that I genuinely believe it. So if you have these people that are doing these heinous, horrible things, and they genuinely believe that God exists, and they genuinely believe that they'll be forgiven, and that they genuinely repent for their actions, all's well that ends well. They get to go to heaven. Which makes some very awkward interactions when, for example, rape victims and their assaulters are in heaven together. One of those two parties might have some questions. So, with the whole faith thing in general, like, there are other verses in the Bible written by Paul as well. 1 Corinthians chapter 2 talks about how people who already believe are somehow endowed with this spiritual understanding, or the Holy Spirit, so to speak, and that they have then therefore the capacity to understand and interpret the Bible in a way that we don't, because we don't have the spiritual understanding. Spirit's a very solid cop-out, because they can just say, oh, well, you don't believe,
you don't get it.
You're never going to get it. But that's working from the bottom down, right? So you're working backwards from the pre-assumed conclusion again. And if I have to believe in something before I see the evidence for it, that's just confirmation bias. If I already accept something as true, I'm already going to be inclined to accept claims or statements that reaffirm that belief. And even as an atheist, I'm guilty of doing that for example, my political persuasions. Sometimes I'll see something on the internet that aligns with what I already believe to be true, and I just accept it at face value, whereas if something does not, I want to investigate more and see if the claim is actually true. I don't feel the urge to do that when there are things that agree with me. Now, I force myself to do it anyways, because I would hate to reference or cite something that I saw and it wind up not being true. I was punished for that plenty of times as a teenager. I do not hasten to make the same mistakes again.
Yeah, and the other thing, keeping in line with beliefs and should the belief be respected? We've for those just jumping in, yes, we're going to respect the human. We're never going to attack the human or try to humiliate the human. Put them on Front Street, but the belief we will call out. As far as the Atheist Roundtable is concerned, that's our stance. Like, we love people, we love helping humans and helping people, but the belief, we will go after the belief, and we think everybody should do that. And part of this, should we respect the belief? One of the other things when I hear that question is, as a former Christian, I think about JT, I think about original sin, which is one of the things that really, when I started to become skeptical and I started to analyze why I believe this, why shouldn't I believe this, that kind of thing. That was like one of my first big tripping points, where it's like, hold on a second. That doesn't even appear to be okay, justifiable, rational, anything like that. The two people, one or two people made a mistake. Now everybody is fucked after that, because of one or two people's decisions. So without going on and on and on, what's your outlook on original sin?
Again, the people who take that literally, they're already in sort of a rut that it's very difficult to penetrate philosophically speaking. But the idea of original sin is basically that God created two adult people that did not possess the knowledge of what was good and evil, and they made a moral decision without moral knowledge. So until they ate from the tree, they could not possibly have known it was wrong to eat from the tree. They wouldn't have been able to understand that until afterward. And on top of that, you have the added component to the story of a serpent, which is at no point in the Bible identified as Satan. That is a sort of an attempt by apologists to sort of make something more poetic out of the story than it really is. But you have this serpent who's apparently sentient and has understanding of who God is and the world and the consequences of eating from the tree.
JT, the snake talks.
It talks. Yeah, it talks. It does. It speaks, and apparently that was not particularly alarming to Eve, because it talked to her and she was like, "Oh, yeah, that's perfectly normal."
Oh, what's up, dog? What's up, dog?
Not even the slightest bit of alarm. So, I mean, if that doesn't scream volumes as to her level of intellect, I don't know what does. But it would seem as though she's just going along whatever the most recent person tells her. So God says, "Go eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil," and she doesn't. The snake says, "Eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil," and she does. And then she's punished for that. Now, again, she doesn't gain the knowledge of good and evil after she eats the fruit. It's not until Adam eats the fruit that it dawns on her. So she didn't even know it was wrong to go bring Adam the fruit. The knowledge apparently didn't activate until both of them had participated. So, some ideas, what would have happened if Adam never ate from the fruit? Would Eve just been banished from the garden? Right? Would we just be in like sort of this homoerotica mess where like all the men get to stay in the garden and the women are just kind of cast out? That'd make for an interesting, Tim Burton movie. But God
damn it, we need a sequel. We need a sequel.
The people who take that story literally clearly do not sit there and think about it for more than a few seconds, because anybody with the understanding of a 4-year-old would be able to obliterate that story by just asking a few simple questions.
Oh, but JT, here's the thing though, is we are fortunate with TART that a lot of people in our comment section, they are, even atheists they're smart people, they're logical people, but there are a lot of Christians, since we're talking about the Bible, there are a lot, and I mean many Christians that do believe it's literal. They literally believe that there was a snake that spoke. They believe that there was a donkey that spoke. They believe that there was a bush that spontaneously combusted and started speaking. Like they actually believe it. Like they believe it's true.
Yeah, they do. Some people do genuinely believe that. And as a matter of fact, this is not the case in sort of like, overseas in Europe and Australia and whatnot. But in the United States, almost 40% of the Christians in the U.S. are fundamentalist Earth creationists who believe in a literal interpretation of Genesis. And there are organizations which make millions and millions of dollars a year dedicated to promoting that idea. The Ark Museum in Kentucky, that right there, that is just a horrible stain on the mark of human achievement. It saddens me greatly that they managed to get away with that con. And as few people that actually go out there and participate in that, it doesn't gain a lot of attraction. It was a novelty when it first started, but it doesn't get a lot of members. I mean, you can buy tickets for like $6 on the internet now. They're really desperate for people. But yeah, almost 40% of Christians in the United States believe in a fundamentalist interpretation of Genesis, where the Earth is less than 10,000 years old, which is strikingly unfortunate.
Well, in the last, I'd love to see where you got that, because the last study report that I saw, it was significantly higher than that, as far as who believed in young Earth and the Garden of Eden story, and and how all that transpired. So I'd love to see that. If you not right now, you can send it to me later. But yeah, it's those, because again, going back to, should we respect the belief? If we sit down and let's pretend that I never grew up in a Christian home, and I never read a Bible, and I didn't know any of these things were going on at all. And you sat down with me, JT, and you're like, Austin, I want to show you this magnificent thing that you should believe in, and you're going to go and live for eternity with this all-powerful, all-knowing God. He's going to take care of you, yada, yada, yada. Okay, well, how do we know this is true? Like, how do we know it's going to? Well, here, there's this book. Just read this book. And I treat it just like I would a book from the dictionary. And I start in Genesis 1 and maybe get to Genesis 2. And I'm like, nah, dog. We got talking animals. We're flooding the earth. We can't keep the accounts of the creation in order from Genesis 1 to Genesis 2. So what is the right, why are we expected to respect that when we can't get a proper defense, or we can't get the evidence to back up those claims, but we're supposed to respect it? So kind of flipping it, I guess, like, why should we respect that?
Hey, we shouldn't. There's no reason to. We don't have any incentive to, other than perhaps being the minority population in our communities and facing some social stigma as a result of not drinking the Kool-Aid, so to speak.
Yeah, and that's why I asked that, because I was like, that's what I try. I always try to be reflective when somebody says something like that. Okay, well, then why? Like, if you want me to believe it, why should I believe it? Because you're not giving me a good reason to believe it, and not only believe it, you're not giving me good reason to even respect it.
You seeing that, Oz?
What's that?
On my screen. I think I'm sharing my screen right now.
If you are, I don't see it.
Okay. That's unfortunate. Oh, hold on. Let's try that. There you go. Can you see this?
Nope. Oh, here we go.
There we go.
There it is.
And U.S. belief in creationist views of human at new low. 38% is the most recent poll on that belief, according to Gallup.
From the Gallup. Okay.
Yep. That's the current stats on how many people in the United States believe in creationism. Now, there's about 250 million or so Christians. So, yeah, 40% of that, that's a big number. Yeah, you're looking at
that's a huge number. Yeah,
you're looking at what is it? Maybe 100 million, almost a little less than 100 million. No, just a little over 100 million, like 120 million or so.
Yeah, it's still a big number. Even in business, we always said a small percentage of a big number is still indeed a big number.
It's a lot of people that believe in the 10,000-year-old Earth. That's frightening. And the problem even further with that is that not only do these people accept a factually incorrect claim, they deny what's actually true, because it's some of these people, maybe, they're genuinely convinced that this is the case because of, like I said, the inculcation. But there's some people who have been in this sort of a debate environment for so long, they simply do not have an excuse to maintain the position that they do. And the problem even worsens when you consider that these people can't just simply think that the rest of us are misunderstanding, or we're just wrong, or we don't know, or we're ignorant, because they would have to believe, and they do believe, that the majority, overwhelming statistical majority of all the world's top academics, biologists, the geologists, the paleontologists, the archaeologists, the physicists, all of them are in a conspiracy of epic proportions to specifically lie about the age of the earth and the evidence for a divine creation. Even though most of these people in aggregate, are some flavor of religious. Around like half of them are, anyway. Even if they don't necessarily behave that way. But that leads to a lot more sinister beliefs as well. I mean, it's like the hierarchy of or the Overton window, so to speak, of conspiracy theories. Because as soon as you accept one, all the rest become that much more reasonable. I've never met a flat earther who wasn't also a young Earth creationist and an anti-vaxxer and a moon landing denier and a 9/11 truther and so on and so forth. There's sort of a ranking system. Once you get down to that level of conspiracy where you accept outright the whole world is fucking lying to you, where do you go from there? Like, what are you willing to deny at that point?
Well, I guess at the end of the ball game, if you were to attempt to try to wrap it up or generalize it, to me, it's a belief for a reason. Why? Because we have not come to knowledge. We don't know that it's true. We don't know that it's certain. So I don't have to respect it until we know that it's true. Then I'll respect truth. Mm-hmm. Then I'll respect that we've come to knowledge. But that's why, Christians, I'm sorry, you're going to get pissed at me, but that's why you're called a believer, not a knower. Like you're not called a knower.
Absolutely.
You believe it because you believe it to be true, and you believe that you want it to be true. That doesn't make it true. That does not make it a truth claim.
I 100% agree. No argument from me, man. I wish we could get some callers on the line, man. Make this spice the show up a little bit better.
Let's get it started. Yeah. So the phone number. Well, as soon as Randolph. Fun fact: Ray Comfort moves from arguing with bananas to arguing with apples. Ray! He's special. Ray's
an interesting person. And that's another thing to consider is that any sufficiently advanced stupidity is indistinguishable from malice. So there are those people that are genuinely so dumb. And by dumb, I don't mean that they're like unintelligent in the way that they're just like retarded. It's just that they have this like wall in their mind where they won't receive any information that contradicts what they want to believe is true, as opposed to sincere conviction. Because there's nothing that I currently believe to be true that I would defend against all evidence to the contrary. If I'm wrong, I'd want to know it. And that's easy to say in principle. It's a little bit more difficult to practice because we all have our biases. We all want to be right. We all want to be vindicated. But some of us do have the rare trait of being willing to overcome those prejudices to what we already think to be true, because everybody wants to know it all.
Yeah, it's amazing what people will believe when they want to believe it. If they need that, if it makes them feel better, feel good, that kind of thing. And and like I've always said, if you're in a place where maybe the doctors told you that you have a life expectancy of 2 months or 3 months, and that's what you need, I'm not saying shit, man. I'm not going to say a damn word to you. I'm not trying to take that away from you. But in a normal day-to-day conversation, yes, we should be challenging these things. And going down the route of epistemology. How do we get to knowledge? And that's why I always go back to it. You're Christians, you're believers, not knowers. So as soon as you become a knower, then I will respect it. But as long as it's a belief, like I said earlier, then I'm going to not necessarily respect the actual belief and continue to poke holes and shoot holes in it. But, there's the number. Sorry, I was waiting. So if you have any questions for JT and or myself, 706-236-7608. And let's get a call in here. Let's have some fun. Theist, if you want to call in.
So I apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
You're good. Theist, if you want to call in, you have a deeply held belief. You want to talk about respecting your faith, your belief. Why should we? Convince us why we should. If you have a God belief, why should we believe? Do you have convincing evidence for us? We would love to hear about that.
Eddie made a couple comments. I specified that the statistics I was pulling from were strictly from the United States because that's what concerns me. Because that 40% of people, that 110 million or so people that believe in that stuff, some of them work for the government. Some of them work for education boards. Some of them are still trying to actively sneak their pseudoscience into American high schools by appealing to the religious convictions of people in the judicial branches. Right? We had that spat back in 2004 in the Kitzmiller versus Dover trial, which was a beautiful ruling, I must say. If you guys have not read the ruling by that judge, I strongly encourage that you go do so. The wording is just magical. Now, to be fair, at the time that the Kitzmiller versus Dover trial actually happened, I was a freshman, and so I was still a Christian at that time. And my whole community thought that it was going to be the end of the fucking world when a judge ruled that you can't teach creationism in school.
Uh-oh.
You get like 3 or 4 voices. Who's talking?
Who do we got? Hello?
Hello?
Yes. Yeah.
It's Oz. Who are we talking to?
Oh, Eddie.
What's up, Eddie?
Dang. I guess I'm watching the podcast and you're still talking over there. I was like, how in the hell?
Well, you should probably mute the feed that you're watching.
Yeah, I did. I just followed it. I know what's going on.
but I assume you're calling to lyrically get destroyed again.
Yes, absolutely. Now the only contention I'm calling about, I'm not going to try to refute all the points. It's just that one thing that believing because people want to believe. And that's just not my experience, man. I have a lot of Christian friends that used to be atheists, and I've got atheist friends that used to be Christians. So, there are people that are literally convinced by what they believe is evidence. So, that whole thing, believing for comfort or because you grew up in it. I didn't grow up in it. A lot of people didn't grow up in it. And, like I said, I think I was on the show when I was talking about, you're supposed to feel God near or this, that, or that. Man, I haven't felt God near me. I don't know if I've ever felt it anywhere near me. And that's not the reason I believe is because of feelings and stuff like that. So, you got to be careful kind of. I know there are a lot of people out there that do blindly believe. And I'm right there with you on it. I think, people should have good reasons for why they believe. But, it's really not a comfort thing because I can tell you now, a lot of the tragedies that I've been through, believing in God and not feeling or knowing a God is there when we're going through, the tragedies that we have gone through, it's freaking terrible because it's like, I'm convinced that he's real, but where the hell is he? So anyways, it's just kind of that,
Hey, Eddie, how could you differentiate between your description, which could absolutely be correct, and the majority? Mm-hmm. Like the majority cases, let's say that the majority of folks, not just Christians, people who hold a deeply held belief, do so for that mm-hmm. description. How do you differentiate that?
Differentiate? I'm not sure exactly what you're asking.
Okay, so you just described your experience. You said you didn't grow up in a religious household. You came to religious beliefs yourself. But statistics would show that the majority of people in the world, like, for example, why are there Hindus in India and not Christians? Why are there Muslims?
Oh, yeah.
So it's demonstrably true that's a fact. So how could you differentiate your fact that you just posited?
Well, one, that's considered a genetic fallacy when you say because somebody grew up somewhere they're this. It doesn't address the fact of whether it's true or not. But I don't tell people that their experiences or beliefs or if they're Hindu. See, I don't believe that people are judged on what they believe because people are all over the world. I honestly believe there's going to be a lot of atheists in heaven. I think if anybody's truly seeking to find truth, I don't see how because they just weren't convinced that they're not going to go to heaven. It's just I just don't buy that. It's it doesn't make any sense. Like, what's the list of beliefs we're supposed to have? because I told, when I was on the show, like I told you, I said, I don't have this extreme confidence that God's real. I just think it's more plausible and more on, in between the plausible, non-plausible to certainty, somewhere around there. I'm pretty confident, but I don't know for sure, so I think churches, a lot of the churches have really put so much dogma in there that, it's really muddied, the waters. It's, you got to believe this, 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 and this. And I don't buy all that. I do mere Christianity. I follow Christ, what he said, and I love people, and that's it. And I leave everything else up to him. And I have a lot of friends that are just like me. It's unfortunate that the loudest, most obnoxious ones, are the ones that have so much influence. Like we talked before with politicians and all the people who identify as Christians, and, really you wouldn't think they were Christians, or, I hate saying that, but, they just, because of these fundamentalists are so freaking loud with their, dogma, they just convince so many people that, stupid shit like the sixth-day creation is real. It makes no sense.
So Eddie, if we go back to the original point of this, or I guess the original premise on your phone call was, these people believe this, but there are those that don't line up with that. Where we still fall at the end of the day is whether it's somebody that believes it because they want a security blanket or they want to feel good, or if it's somebody that's went through the steps of trying to apply logic and reason and rationale. We still end up at the same point that none of you can demonstrate convincingly that a God is real. So I know I asked you this before, and you kind of already threw a couple questions last explanation. Why are you even convinced? When I hear you talk, I'll tell you, I don't even know that you're convinced. I know I'm not, but I don't know that you're convinced. So what is it that convinces you?
Oh yeah. I'm definitely convinced. Like I said, I believe that the argument.
Can I stop you?
God,
can I stop you?
Yeah.
And I hate doing that. You say that you say that now, but if we rewind this tape, you literally just said, I don't even know if this is true. Like, I don't even know if this is real.
No, you're right. I'm not. Yeah, but
so you're not convinced, because if I'm convinced,
talking about,
like I'm convinced that I'm sitting here right now and we're having this conversation. I'm convinced that I know it.
No, yeah, I made it clear that I am convinced, but there's no epistemic certainty. I'm not. If there was counter evidence to the arguments that make me feel like God is real, then I'm all for it. Like I said, the evidence for God itself, separate from Christianity, I would probably be a deist. But no, I'm honest, man. I'm open. I'm objective. No, there's not certainty. I'm not certain that there's a God, by no means. I just think it's more plausible that there is. And I think that's about the most honest take that someone can have is, just they're convinced and, open to counter evidence.
Well, and for us and those that in the future watch it and maybe they're questioning and doubting, they're walking into skepticism. Probability does not equal reality or truth. Probability is at best is a way to try to project or measure, but that doesn't mean still doesn't mean it's true.
No, you're absolutely right. No, it can't. No, everything's not based on probability, but I'm talking about plausibility. And we're going to get into the psychology of beliefs and things of that. Which beliefs do we actually form on our own? And there's a whole epistemic field on beliefs. You've got justified true beliefs, and there's all kinds of different epistemologies on why people have beliefs and how they have beliefs and how they're justified in those beliefs. And believe it or not, out of all the different fields of epistemology, almost none of them agree with each other. So, it's one of those things that, I read Theory of Knowledge was a book. It was a college book for intro to philosophy. I didn't take it in college. I just had the book. And the Theory of Knowledge it goes over what everything goes into knowing. And it's not just empirical evidence. It's not just reason. It incorporates, intuition, emotion, experience, perception. All these different things is what makes us believe certain things. So that's what I was saying about the psychoanalysis. It's really uncharitable to say that people want to believe this. People want to, because that's no different than the fundamentalist saying you just don't want to believe it. And we're all different. I know Christians just like you're talking about.
If we didn't talk to people, on a weekly basis that they want to believe it because it makes them feel secure and happy, I would never say it. But I have those conversations on a regular basis. One more question, and JT, and I apologize. I'll let you jump in here.
No problem, man. I'm just
Eddie, having being convinced, as you said, that you are, and you also shared that you haven't felt God, heard God, any of those things. My last question would be, if those things haven't happened and you don't have that kind of relationship, what has that belief provided you that you still buy in, that you still want to pursue that? What is that belief or that God done for you that you keep going back for more? Why do you keep going back?
It doesn't provide me anything. I don't think it's biblical for feelings and things of that. That's fundamentalist, kumbaya shit that's just not there. That's I don't it doesn't provide me anything. I'm just convinced there's a God.
Okay.
And I live my life just like you do every day. And the only difference between you and I is I pray. That's it.
Cool. JT.
Oh, I don't have a whole lot to offer there. For me, I think that Eddie's guiding his way through this as much as any of us are, and I listened to him there for a little bit. I don't have a lot of objections. I'm sure that some will come up. He wants to have a debate with me on TART next weekend, which I look forward to and I'm preparing for. So
yeah, baby,
be on the lookout, Eddie.
When we can define terms.
Yeah, well, yeah, we'll work on that too. That'll be useful.
Yeah,
but as far as his position on respecting beliefs, I think I agree with Eddie there.
Okay.
No, and I'm not disputing the fact that there are quite a few Christians out there. I have some in my family that literally believe there was a talking snake in the Bible, and the thing is, it's kind of a mindset, because I can't even try to talk to them about theology and something different because they just totally shut down. And it's aggravating as hell. But if somebody's blind in what they want to believe, yeah.
Eddie, it is aggravating as hell, because it's not a few, and maybe it's a few.
No, there's a good number.
To you, it's a majority, Eddie. It's a majority.
No, it's not majority. It's not majority. That's what I've been telling you.
You could go pull up the research.
Yeah, I'm in a group of about 2,000 people in a philosophy group, and not a single theist in there believes like we're talking about here. It's the loudest ones are these obnoxious people. That's what I'm saying. They take evangelism hyper literally, just like they do everything else. So that's the reason they're out in the street preaching and going to people's doors and all this shit. We don't do that because we don't believe that's what the Bible teaches. We're just supposed to live our life good.
You're talking about
Eddie. Just as a sort of a preface here. When we talk about these people who do believe in these absurd things, right? We're talking about them because they're the subject. If you're a Christian who's not part of that demographic, then you're not the subject. And anything that we say then henceforth.
No. Well, it was the broad brushing. That's what I was talking about.
We weren't doing that. We were maintaining specifically our criticisms against these young earth fundamentalists. Or at least I was. I wasn't grouping Christians in as a whole. I made several.
Okay, yeah, that's just the way it came out.
There are Christians who don't believe this, and that they shouldn't be lumped in with the rest. Right? I'm trying to be as fair as I can.
Yeah. And I said that too.
It's not as useful. It's not very useful to talk about the people who aren't the problem. Right?
Yeah,
if we want to solve a problem, we should talk about the problem, not people who aren't the problem.
Yeah, but Oz is talking about as if it's all Christian.
No. I said very, you can rewind the tape. I said very specifically that there are some very smart theists.
I'm going to rewind the tape. Hey, one of the things I found interesting that you said, Eddie.
I'm sorry, Oz, I missed that. I didn't hear that part.
Hey, Eddie.
Go ahead.
Hey, one of the interesting things I heard you say was that if it wasn't for Christianity, you'd probably be a deist, right?
Yeah. I'm convinced by the evidence for Christ and the explanatory scope of the resurrection. I believe there's a God, and Christ fits the mold of what that God would be. But yeah, I would be a deist because of all of the metaphysical questions that we have, about the universe, why there's something instead of nothing, all these different questions that, we go through in philosophy.
Okay. So if not for the human being that came back to life after he was tortured and killed, you'd put your money and hedge your bets on deism.
Yeah, well, the thing with deism is, deism just kind of answers the question of, why there's something instead of nothing. But on deism, there's no personal creator. He's not, it's kind of like everything was made. He spun it up like a top and just let it go. So, it's not really the God in the concept of classical theism, but it'd be kind of like pantheism or something like that. It's an explanation for all of these metaphysical things that we don't have, answers for.
Sure. Now, what are you concerned with as far as like saying that you don't know about something? Does that bother you, or are you okay to admit that you don't know something?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I admit I don't know something. Do it all the time. People ask me all the time, how if there's a God and he's good, then why is there suffering? I don't know. I've been angry with God many a times because suffering that we've suffered in my own family. And to me, that's where most atheists should focus their objections is on divine hiddenness and the problem of evil and suffering, because that's one of the things that's what drops my confidence from closer to certainty. Is like, how in the hell do we have a hospital full of kids with cancer and kids dying and all this shit, and there's a God up there just letting it all happen? I know the intellectual response, but it's not fulfilling. It doesn't make me feel better.
Sure. I wonder if you noticed.
So, that's something I struggle with hard.
Okay. I wonder if you noticed something there. So you have an issue or take issue with the way Oz speaks, which is totally fine. And you say that he was generalizing, and you literally just did the same thing, and you're talking to me.
What do you mean?
You just generalized most atheists, and then you posited something.
Did I?
Yes, sir.
If I did, I apologize. I didn't realize I did. It's just, I never hear, any of these arguments from atheists. But yeah, you're right. You're absolutely correct. I shouldn't have generalized like that.
No, personally, I don't mind. No, personally, I don't mind. I'm more calling you on the hypocrisy versus whether or not you had data to back up your comment. You could actually be justified.
Yeah, no.
I'll be a little bit more generous.
I misspoke. I should have generalized like that. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. So a lot of it boils down to that. A lot of times we're talking about a specific subject and we're kind of using a blanket statement in a sense.
Yeah. I see your point. Yeah. I see your point.
But as we roll on with the show, look, just to do a quick selfless plug here for Eddie. Eddie's going to be moderating a debate tomorrow with Oz. We're going to be hosting a debate between Mike Brigandy and two Calvinists, not one, but two Calvinists.
Oh my God! Oh Lord have mercy! I wish I'd known that for I said something.
Yeah, one of which one of the guys speaks several languages, so he's very well versed in biblical history and theology. So Mike might have his work cut out for him. We're going to reveal these two gentlemen, tomorrow. It's 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. TART, Oz, and Mr. Eddie going to be moderating. So I'm going to hop off. But Eddie, do you have any other words for the guys?
No, that's it. I'll let some other callers get on here. But
awesome, man. I appreciate you calling in, my man.
oh, no problem. Bud.
Yep.
I
Thank you,
appreciate
buddy.
the show. All right, bud.
All right, JT, any thoughts on that?
I want to be a little nicer to Eddie. Usually when we use words like most, especially in a conversational setting, what we're really referring to there, although not specifying, is that we're talking about most with which we have experience, right? Like it would be impossible to make a broad blanket statement on most atheists or most Christians because you haven't met most atheists or most Christians. I don't think that's even possible, just logistically speaking. So when Eddie says most atheists, so on and so on, he's probably referring to most atheists whom he has experience. And likewise, if I say most Christians or you say most Christians, we're doing the same thing, referring to those that we have experience with. And the vast majority of Christians that I have experience with, especially living in the buckle of the Bible Belt, are fundamentalist evangelicals. As a matter of fact, I invited one to call the show tonight, who's been fighting with me on TikTok. He referenced there's a TikTok that I made against an individual who claimed they could demonstrate that evolution was a satanic lie, and that feeds into the the thing that I was talking about earlier, wherein people when they have beliefs in wrong things for bad reasons, they tend to be malicious about it. So it's not just that their opponents are wrong; their opponents are liars. Their opponents worship the devil, and that's dangerous. And that particular individual on TikTok has 1.7 million followers. I think I would be safe in saying at least half of them, at least half, agree with him in his assessment.
Yeah, well,
So
there's a reason they follow him. Yeah.
Yeah, at least 850,000 people agree with his assessment on that topic. And so I responded, and then an individual commented on my video, linking me to a video done by the Hoover Institute, which I did watch. Actually, I watched it when it came out because before this video came out, I used to follow the Hoover Institute because I was interested in what the other side had to say. But they have a video called "The Mathematical Challenges to Evolution," and it features three panelists: Stephen C. Meyer, David Berlinski, and David Gerlenter. None of them are biologists. None of them are geneticists. None of them are paleontologists. None of them have any expertise in the necessary fields of science that would equip them with a credential or sufficient understanding of evolution. And Stephen Meyer especially works for the Discovery Institute. His paycheck literally depends on him fighting against evolution. So if I was going to get a professional opinion from somebody on whether or not evolution is a valid, scientific model, I certainly wouldn't get that opinion from somebody who won't get paid unless they tell me no. That right. Seems like a bad idea, just generally. But of course, the video is wrought with fallacious ideas, reasoning, and perhaps outright lies as far as David Berlinski is concerned. David Berlinski, for those of you who don't know, is not much in the limelight as a intelligent design advocate. That's the new politically correct term for creationism. But he did get famous a few years back by doing an interview wherein he claimed that he personally counted all the necessary genetic changes that would require a cow to change into a whale or vice versa. And he said that there were 50,000 genetic changes necessary for a cow to change into a whale or vice versa. Now, among other things that he may have missed in that counting, the primary one he probably should have been aware of is that whales didn't evolve into cows and cows don't evolve into whales. So I don't know if he was just unaware of that or he was being sensational. But on top of that, it seems rather mathematically challenging, especially for someone who claims to be a mathematician, to have actually counted 50,000 different genetic changes. Right, that's like a solid week and a half of counting if you were to count one genetic change every minute of the day.
Right.
So it's very unrealistic that he actually did that. So I don't even think that he's convinced he did that. He was just being hyperbolic, and clearly he wants to mislead people. He's not interested in a fruitful discussion, which is why David Berlinski, despite his outspoken criticism of evolution, has never accepted a debate challenge from evolutionary biologists such as Kenneth Miller, who is a Catholic and an evolutionary biologist responsible for the Miller-Levine biology textbook, which is used in the majority of high schools today. So perhaps he should explore that topic with people who disagree with him and stop participating in panels where everybody is just agreeing with what he has to say. That's where we get into the whole echo chamber problem.
I was just going to say that. Yeah, as soon as you find yourself in the echo chamber, we already have problems.
And then the third panelist was David Gerlinter, who is a computer scientist. So of the three individuals on that panel, he is the least qualified to have an opinion on biological evolution.
Of course, that's usually how it goes. The last thing I'll say to Eddie's call, and I respect that he's in a chat group, whatever, with 2,000 people that don't hold beliefs similar to what I said. First and foremost, if you have that, that's great. And I do agree, JT, with what you said. When most people say most of, it is what you deal with on a day-to-day basis. But there are studies and researches that are done, whether it's what you pulled up earlier, the Pew researches, there's all kinds of numbers you can pull up to show you that most of these things that we're talking about are going to be as close to accurate as possible when we're talking about statistics and beliefs and that kind of thing, especially when they go through a questionnaire and people are answered like this. These are real life people answering these questions. These aren't made up, made up figures. But let's say that 2,000 number is accurate. We have 2,000 people in this group or this circle. You're talking about 2,000 people, but when we say most in referring to those statistics, not just our own personal experience, 2,000 is a flash in the pan. Like 2,000 people, 2,000 people is this big compared to the millions of people that believe that way. So as much as I like Eddie and I respect Eddie, that is, it's crazy to try to minimize it just down to your group of 2,000 when we have millions of people that.
Hundreds of millions.
Yeah. Well, and I'm trying to be, like you said, trying to be generous. We have millions of people that believe this way.
Yeah. And I mean, if you want to get on a statistical level, we're talking about 1% of 1% at 2,000. If there, we round down and say 200 million Christians altogether, 2,000 would be 1% of 1%.
Yeah.
So that's, forgive me, but I don't consider that to be particularly compelling. That's not a statistical margin that is worth any serious consideration. And like I told Eddie, when we're talking about the problem, we should focus on the problem. We shouldn't divert to the whataboutisms. Well, what about these people who aren't the problem? Well, they're not the problem, so we don't need to talk about them, right? That seems to be kind of lost. I think Eddie identifies with the end group of just general Christians, and so whenever Christians are criticized, perhaps sometimes that triggers a defense mechanism, which happens to all of us. I mean, if someone says well, atheists do this, this, and this, well, I don't do that. I'm guilty of the same thing. I want to jump in and defend myself, but I don't do those things, so I shouldn't be worried about criticisms of people who do those things.
Right. And at the end of the day, we're all human. There may be certain things that we, we react instead of responding, we react, to what we hear. But yeah, at the end of the day, still, like I told Eddie before he. Before we got off the call, whether you are a Christian that considers just, I'm not saying this about Eddie, I'm just saying in general, if you are a Christian or a theist that considers yourself to be a philosophical phenomenon, and you think you're a beast and you're a monster, or you're highly educated, like I'm going to respect the fact that you've worked hard, and I'm going to respect your grind and going after education and bettering yourself. Or if you're a Christian that dropped out of high school and you believe because of the things that have convinced you to believe on your level of study, whether you ever been to Bible college or anything like that, doesn't matter. I still don't see any convincing reasons to believe in a God claim, like whether it comes from the philosophical brain or just the common sense thinker. There's still no good reasons to believe, in my opinion.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that.
So,
I agree with that. Do we have any other callers on the line?
Well, I was going to say 706-236-7608. If you want to talk, let's chop it up, and we can talk about God claims. Should JT and or Oz respect your belief? Should we? Why should we? Or if you want to talk about Bigfoot or Godzilla or ghosts or aliens, we can talk about any of those things. All those are things that are going to be a deeply held belief for yourself. So let's get into it.
I have cinematic proof that Godzilla exists.
Okay, well then I have cinematic proof that Jesus died on a cross and resurrected.
There you go. That's all you need. The movie.
Game over. Somebody in the feed.
Exactly.
In the feed. It's over with.
I also have cinematic proof that Jesus was gay.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah,
that is very true. Yeah, it's oh man, did the interwebs and the social medias not blow up when that shit came out?
Quality Control asked me, should I respect your beliefs on abortion? In the comment section there. I am pro-life, which is a lot different than most of my atheist cohorts. I have reasons for being pro-life, but I'm pro-life in a lot of other areas as well. I'm against the death penalty, for example. I don't think that abortion should be illegal. If I want to clear that up. I just personally do not advocate for terminating the life of a person. And you can get into all the scientific categorization you want, but at the end of the day, you're creating. You are procreating. That fetus is going to be a person. That is a potential life. That's a potential person that's going to contribute to the world and have thoughts and emotions and desires, and they're going to laugh and they're going to love and they're going to cry and they're going to experience happiness and sadness, and they might get angry from time to time. They're going to fall in love. Hopefully they're going to have their own children. And so the idea of terminating that in my mind is an unspeakable tragedy. So I kind of spoke about, why I'm pro-life on my TikTok, and Quality wanted to debate me on that, which I'm open to. I mean, if he wants to have that conversation with me, I'm fine. I usually don't talk about issues like that. Politics, there's really only two that I care about. One of them obviously is abortion. And the other one would be gun control. Being raised in the South, I'm very pro-gun. I got a lot of them. So I'm open to be having my mind changed, though. I mean, I'm not a stoic in what I believe.
I'm an atheist, and I love my guns as well. But when it comes to can you for me, I know the question was directed at JT, but do you have to respect my belief? Or and see, that's when it comes to abortion. I don't think that's like a belief. I think that's just a stance that I have. Like I don't believe in anything. It's just I just think we shouldn't do this or that,
Exactly, yeah.
But you can, if we want to summarize it to a belief, no, have at it. I mean, you don't have to respect anything that I say or believe or do. That's totally up to you. See, that doesn't bother me. You're not taking anything away from me.
Yeah, no, I don't. Like I said, with Quality Control, I don't care if he respects what I believe, right? Should I respect those beliefs? That's an is-ought question. Does he have some sort of obligation to respect me? And I don't think he does.
No.
What are the circumstances you want to accomplish? Do you want to accomplish or achieve a society wherein everybody's cooperative and flourishing and they get along? Well, perhaps. Do you want to achieve a society wherein everybody who disagrees with you is exterminated? Then no. Those are extreme examples. Obviously, I don't think Quality Control wants to exterminate people. He doesn't agree with them. I have met people, it doesn't matter what they believe, who want violence for those that disagree with them on a good number of issues. It doesn't matter the issue. There are people out there who think that you should you should die if you disagree with them. And again, to respond to Quality Control, no, I don't think abortion is murder. Murder is specifically defined as the unlawful killing of another human being. Premeditated unlawful killing, and it is not unlawful to terminate a pregnancy, so therefore it is not murder.
Yeah, see, I don't even like getting into to abortion because there's what's that?
A lot of nuance.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I've really said this all along since I've been doing the YouTube thing. I really think that it's highly inconsiderate and disrespectful to the women that have to make this decision and have to go through this psychologically, emotionally, and physically. They have to go through this process. That yes, as men, we can have our opinion on it, but I think it's a little disrespectful to act like we really understand the ins and outs of what goes on with a woman and everything that plays into it. And a couple guys talking about it, I think is.
Hey, fellas.
Yep.
Hey, guys. Hey there. I got a youth pastor on the line named Zach. He called in on the last show. Didn't have a chance to speak with you guys. He was populated from Just Jeff's live stream on TikTok. So his name is Zach. He's a youth pastor, and he'd like to talk to you guys about beliefs. Hey, Zach, you're live with the guys.
What's going on, Zach?
Hey, how's it going?
What's up, Zach? What you want to talk about, man?
So I heard the topic was why does beliefs deserve respect, correct?
Yeah,
Yep.
That's the general idea.
All right, well, I'll just share my opinion on the matter real quick. And I do believe that all religions and beliefs should be respected equally, no matter what religion believe. Now, I personally do believe in Jesus Christ, and I am a Christian youth pastor, so I do believe in the Bible and all of that. But I do believe that every religion deserves respect, just as the same as a black person, Hispanic person, white person. They all deserve equal respect and equality. I do believe the same goes for religions and or beliefs.
Well, so when we talk about people in general, right, you can't deduce anything from a person just by knowing that they're a person, right? Other than, maybe some taxonomic classifications and anatomy, right? If I meet a black person on the street, I don't know anything about that person's life. I don't know what they've endured. I don't know what they believe. I don't know what they stand for. But with beliefs, you do know what people believe and stand for. When somebody has, like you say, a belief in Christianity, I can deduce a few things about what they believe. One of the things that's most common about that belief and is different amongst certain people, but I'm statistically safe in thinking that person believes that as an atheist, I deserve to be punished for all of eternity in conscious eternal torment and fire. That is not something that I'm ever going to respect. And so if your religion teaches that, if that is something that you believe, then no, I won't respect it.
I understand. And I know where you're coming from, too, from a guy who used to be the same way. I used to be an atheist, believe it or not. And, in fact, I despise Christians because, I always felt like people would be trying to put the religion on me. And then when I talk bad about it, they would be more or less say something along the lines of, well, how do you really want that? And I didn't like how that happened until I actually personally experienced some things that I do believe was from God and really changed my perspective on the matter. Now, we all know, or I guess as a Christian, I know that God is all loving and all knowing, right? And the Bible does talk about that. Even, as you as an atheist can verify, it does say that. Or what were you going to say?
That's the claim. Now, the Bible doesn't say that God is all loving. It says that he's loving.
Yeah, but it does say in the Bible, though, it doesn't use the specific words all loving, but it does say in there that he does love everybody. All of creation.
Calvinists would disagree with you.
Or what was that?
Calvinists would disagree with you.
Okay.
Right? You might be able to quote something like John 3:16 where it says, for God so loved the world, right? But it never specifies anything about people. I'm being a little technical on you, but just to be clear, these attributes that we have assigned to God, those are philosophical claims. I mean, and if we're talking about a God in that category, we can debate, is God this or that? The first step, of course, would be, is there a God? And I think it is important that we define what we mean by a God if we're going to jump to that conversation. So, yeah, I mean, I accept that, the Christian idea and a lot of other monotheistic religious ideas of God is that he's at least omnipotent and omniscient, at least. And then some other characteristics come into that as well, like being omnibenevolent and all loving and all just and so on and so forth. Some of which I have contentions with because I think they contradict one another, which is something that we can explore if you like. But as far as the belief itself, when we say does something deserve respect, right? Should we appreciate that this thing exists? That's when I say that I respect this person or that person, what I'm really telling you, what I'm saying is that I appreciate that this person is who they are, or that this thing is the way that it is, right? I have a reverence for that. I think that it's generally a good thing that it exists and that it should be respected. I respect your right to believe, for example. Like, I think you should have the right to believe whatever you want. And I respect that right, because, if I don't, then I immediately, I surrender that right myself as soon as I want to take it from another person. I don't respect the belief. Similarly, I have the right to smoke cigarettes, and the vast majority of the population doesn't respect that. They don't want to be around me. They don't want to participate in that. And that's fine. They still respect me as a person, even if they don't respect something that I'm doing or something that I'm participating in. So if you believe something and you don't have good reasons for it, which I don't think that you do, again, we can explore that. And even if you did have good reasons for it, if it's a sinister belief, which I think that it is, where a belief that entails that people are going to be incomprehensibly punished for disagreeing with you, no, I'm not going to respect that. Things should be respected if you appreciate their existence.
And JT, real quick, and Zach, if I could say this, and I'll let you guys keep going. I respect people's right to believe whatever they want to believe. You can do that, just like I respect your right to say what you want. So you do that. It doesn't mean I have to respect what it is that you believe in. So you have the right to, and do it by all means. But that does not mean that I respect the God or the faith that you that you buy into or believe in. Those are two different things.
The actual definition of respect is due regard for the feelings, wishes, rights, or traditions of others, or a feeling of deep admiration for someone or something elicited by their abilities, qualities, or achievements. Now, the something would take effect there because we're talking about a belief, which is a thing. And I do not have any admiration for the beliefs of Christians or Muslims, or some other religious sects as well. That would, I wouldn't categorically, I would not experience the feeling of respect for those things based on those reasons, and nor do I think it's anybody's imperative that they ought to, right? There's no reason to respect a person's belief unless it elicits that admiration based on what it entails. Like, for example, I think everybody would probably respect the belief that we should treat others as we ourselves would want to be treated, because that's a respectful belief. That's admirable, right? That has a net positive on society for the most part.
Yeah. And so what I want to get into real quick is I've looked up statistics before, and actually places, and I'm not saying Christians are better than anybody else, because they're not. They just believe in something that other people don't believe in. I just want to clarify that before I get into it. But it does show that places where there are more religious activity, there is a 10% reduction in the crime rate. And the reason I do believe that is a thing is because
that's not true. Some of the most religious areas in the United States have the highest crime rates. Now, if your statistics are taking Europe into consideration, they might be a little bit skewed. But in the United States specifically, religiosity is highest in Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas, Kentucky, and Alabama. And all of those states have higher than the national average violent crime rates. Prisons are also disproportionately religious.
And in the Bible Belt, the divorce rate is the highest, and the amount of porn, which is a hot topic for Christians, the amount of porn that is purchased and consumed is in the Bible Belt.
Yeah, but prisons are also disproportionately religious. Atheists make up about 12% of the U.S. population. We're less than 1% of the prison population. And more people deconvert in prison than convert. So the number, if it were the case that people were religious and then they go to prison and they stop being religious, you would expect that number to be even higher, but it's not. So not only do you have people going to prison and staying religious, you have people being religious and going to prison, or going to prison and becoming religious. So atheists are a very small minority when it comes to who commits the most crimes, just proportionally. That is not an argument that's going to go in your favor, my friend.
And Zach, if we could take it back to, you called in, which I love that you called in on the topic. Why, should we respect a person's belief? So we kind of separate it where we 100% respect your right to believe in what you believe in, but why should we respect the belief, the God of Christianity, Christianity as a whole? Why should we respect it? What's a good reason for us to respect that?
Personally, I'm not saying you have to absolutely admire everything about the Christian religion, right? And I think the big controversial topic when talking about respect is, me personally, and I will admit, when I think of respect, I just think of you, acknowledging my right to do something, right?
Okay.
But when you guys read the definition of respect,
so that's the distinction. I respect your right to believe. I do not respect the belief. Is that sufficient?
Yeah, and that is a little bit more understanding. Like I said, personally, I didn't understand what you meant by respect, as in religion. So I know you understand. You respect my right to religion. You just don't respect the religion itself.
Correct.
But I do believe everybody, deserves respect. Personally, like you've been very respectful. I've been very respectful. I believe that each person deserves respect, whether or not they believe in something, because they do have the right to believe. So that their religion should also be respected in a sense where they're not going to be discriminated against or thought differently of because of something that they believe in.
Right. For the record, I am trying to find a source prime, but unfortunately, all the articles that I'm trying to click on are all behind a paywall. You have to pay to get the article, so I'm not able to bring one up. But you can find the prison stats on pewresearch.com. That's actually really easy. And then
I don't even need to research it. I know that. I mean,
you can also just Google generally what states are the most religious, and then what states have the highest crime rates. Right. So
yeah.
That'll be.
I didn't look in the United States. I looked out of the United States.
Right. Well, we're specifically talking about the U.S. here. Europe is different. They have entirely different cultures. Okay. So your religious beliefs versus your non-religious beliefs are less impactful than they are here in the United States. Like people who are religious, especially the hardcore fundamentalists that we're talking about, pretty much all of their worldview is sculpted by that religious idea. Their political beliefs, their social beliefs, and so on. What they believe about economics even can be affected by these things. And that isn't so much the case in other regions of the world. That's almost uniquely American. And, as a matter of fact, when we talk about other religions, for example, Islam also tends to be a very politically dominated religious idea. So not only does it mold what you believe about, just general reality and how the universe came to be, but it seeks to also control and instruct how you should behave and what you should think in politics and society as well. And so religions do this thing, and I would be interested to sort of shift the conversation to what convinced you to be a Christian. You said you were an atheist, and now you're a Christian, and I would like to know what convinced you. But if you have any other questions or comments about this subject, feel free to close that out now, or we can move on.
We can move on if you would like.
Yeah, I would like that, actually. I'm interested. I constantly hear people tell me I used to be an atheist. Forgive me, I never believe them when they tell me that, because it's almost always the case that when they say I used to be an atheist, what they really mean is they used to be the kind of person that you see atheists portrayed as in Christian media, like, for example, God's not dead, wherein the atheist really did believe God existed, he just hated it. Right?
Well, that would be more of an agnostic.
Agnosticism is a lot of so you have whether you do or don't believe and whether you do or don't know. So you can be an atheist and an agnostic, or an agnostic and a theist. They're not mutually exclusive. So what I'm referring to right now is that if you say you were an atheist, what I assume that means is that you at one point did not believe a God existed. You were without that conviction. I want to know what inspired that conviction.
Sure. So I will explain kind of what happened to actually make me become a Christian. This goes all the way back to 2016. I was 16 years old at the time. I was going through a lot of stuff. I lost a lot of family members, through people who have passed away. I was doing bad in school. I ended up dropping out at 16 years old. And it got to the point I ended up attempting to take my own life on several occasions. Ended up with me in the mental hospital, right, for a whole month. I ended up getting out, and some guy came up to me and started talking about God, and I was like, why would I believe in something that look at everything that's happened to me? If there was a God, why would he do all this and whatnot? And he was talking to me about it, and I was like, whatever, I'll talk to you about it. And something he said kind of stuck with me, and he told me, God wouldn't put you through something you can't handle. Well, at first I really despised that saying because, well, why would God allow me to go through something if he loves me so much? Why would he allow me to go through something? And I remember getting home that night, and I started crying, and I prayed for the first time. I was like, this is stupid, so I stopped praying. Well, my friend ended up giving me a book. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's called New Evidence Demands a Verdict.
I have heard of that.
And it's I started looking over it. It's kind of a dry read. You really have to read it slowly, because it's a philosophy book, which I'm not a big fan of philosophy. It's just, to me, it's something I don't like enjoying to read because it's boring. But I read it, and I started reading it slowly, and there was just so much compelling scientific and philosophical evidence that there is a God of, Jesus, of the Christian belief. And I started looking into it, and I started doing my research, and I started praying. And when I started praying, I started feeling different. I started feeling more whole. I guess some of the stuff that was going on in my life started to get better.
Okay.
And at first I didn't understand exactly what was happening with it, but I do believe God ended up coming into my life. Go ahead.
I don't want to minimize your experiences, but there's a couple of things that, this is what I hear all the time. Whenever I ask an atheist or someone who said they used to be an atheist, what convinced you? It is always an emotional appeal. It's never the case they give me some tangible evidence, right? Because when you were an atheist, if someone came up and gave you this exact story, would you find that compelling?
I mean, as a Christian, or as if I was an atheist?
When you were an atheist, if someone delivered this exact story to you, would you have found that particularly compelling?
Not necessarily. I probably wouldn't have thought of it as something that was substantial.
Why not?
And maybe more of circumstantial.
Why wouldn't it have compelled you?
Because they didn't have any. This was years ago, but personally, I wouldn't have believed it just because of the fact that it has something to do with emotional trauma that can, change a person's perspective on things.
So,
and so I experienced myself and really felt it.
Do you think that perhaps your good feelings came from finding a community as opposed to divine intervention? Right? You started going to church. You had all these new people that were interested in making you feel good.
Not necessarily, because I didn't even go to church until 2 years after I became a Christian. Because
I don't know how convinced I am by that claim. But why don't we focus on just the merits of what you're saying? Well, first thing that you said was that God can't give you more than you can handle. But he does, right? Because you said for yourself that you were on the verge of suicide. Well, many people also come to that verge and they fall right off the edge. So clearly they were given more than they could handle. I mean, on just a rhetorical level, that seems to be the case. Furthermore, you have, for example, children who die in the millions every year due to diseases, natural calamities, war, so on and so forth. And they didn't have the capacity to handle any of that, and they died before they could even reach the age of maturity. So it is very obviously the case that most people who have ever lived at some point met something that they couldn't handle, and they suffered immensely for it. But I understand that you had these experiences and these traumas that sort of guided you to religion, to this idea that perhaps it was all for a reason, right? That it wasn't just random horrible happenstance that occurred and you just happened to be the victim. That seems to be something that people don't want to accept to be the case, even if it were actually true. And forgive me if this insults you, but you're not unique in this line of reasoning, that you seem to be coming to a conclusion about what reality is and how it came to be based off of your local emotional experience. Do you think that is an appropriate method of determining what's true about the world?
Not always. Everybody does come to religion in their own ways, and yes, there are a lot of people who come to the same conclusion that I have due to similar experiences. And in fact, one of the biggest reasons people do come to Christianity is through traumatic experiences.
Not evidence, right?
But
like tangible evidence is not the thing that convinces most people to believe what you believe. Do you think that there's a problem with that?
Can you repeat that question?
So, emotional appeal, right? That convinces people to believe in a lot of things. Some people believe in healing crystals. Some people believe in homeopathy. Some people believe in, Wicca, Shintoism, Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism, Islam. Emotional appeal can be used to get people to believe in a variety of different things. Now, you're a Christian, so you automatically discount Islam, Shintoism, Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism as all false. And I would hopefully you don't think that homeopathy or healing crystals are effective. But again, emotional appeals are very useful in convincing people that those things are true or real or that they work. Now, if emotional appeal can be used just the way that faith can be used to bring you to a false conclusion about reality, do you think that it is a reliable metric for determining what is true about reality?
So when I started looking into it, I did research on all different religions, and the reason I did come to the Christianity religion wasn't just based solo. A lot of it had to do with what I've been through, but that wasn't my entire conclusion based off of just an emotional trauma. There was a lot of factual evidence that has brought me to this conclusion.
I want to know about the factual evidence, but keep in mind that it seems like the emotional appeal is what got you into it first, and then the circumstantial evidence that you're probably going to bring up here is just things that sort of reaffirmed what you believe. Now, if it were the case that I was able to sufficiently demonstrate to you right now that the evidence that you're referring to, the factual evidence, if that was not true, right? If that was inaccurate, would that hinder your belief in Christianity, or would you just go back to the emotional appeal? Would you just fall back on that it makes you feel good?
Well, I don't know how you would tell me otherwise when it comes to these facts, because this is
fact. Do you believe that it's a possibility you're wrong?
About this.
Do you believe that it's a possibility that you're wrong and that perhaps you're misinformed?
I mean, there's always that possibility to be misinformed when it comes to factual stuff, but my evidence has actually come from reliable resources.
I'm not disputing that. What I'm saying is that it's possible that these things that you think are facts are possibly wrong, right? They're possibly wrong.
There's always that possibility, yes.
So if I could demonstrate that to you sufficiently, right, would you stop being a Christian, or would you just discount that information and go back to relying on the emotional conviction, right, the feel good?
It really would depend. So if you were to somehow debunk all the facts that I give to you and count them wrong and prove to me and demonstrate that they are false, I'd probably go back to, researching more and finding more stuff, that would point to Christianity, because once you're so involved within the Christianity, even if something is proved wrong, it's hard to really just go away from it.
Okay, so
right? And I've disputed plenty of times and nobody's ever proven me wrong yet.
Let's give it a shot. What do you think is the best evidence for the existence of your God?
So we're going to go over the birth of Jesus first, right? Now, I'm sure everybody can confirm that, Jesus did live. He was an actual human being.
Which birth, though, are we going over? Yeah, but which birth of Jesus Christ? Are we going with the one in Matthew or the one in Luke?
His normal life, when the one what?
So there's two different accounts of the circumstances regarding Jesus' birth. One is the Gospel of Matthew, the other is the Gospel of Luke, and they are irreconcilable with one another.
Matthew.
So we're going with Matthew. Okay. Continue.
There is proof that he did live as a human being, was born by Mary.
Well, I'm not a mythicist, so I don't think that's particularly relevant for me.
Yeah, I'm just saying that there is proof that he did live. He was born, as well as there was also proof that yes, Muhammad did live. So did Buddha, and all these other.
Skip over that. I accept Jesus was a real person. Now prove he was divine and the Son of God.
Yep, and I'm getting to that. So after researching it, yes, they were all proven to have lived at one point. And there is proof that they were all buried in tombs, right? Just like Jesus was buried in the tomb.
Who were buried in tombs?
Muhammad was buried in his tomb.
Who were buried in tombs?
Muhammad and Jesus.
Okay. Well, I don't think there's any proof that Jesus was buried in a tomb. That's a claim that he was buried in a tomb.
Right.
And I don't think there's any proof that Muhammad was buried in a tomb either. That's also a claim. But what I want to know is like it's not particularly exciting that a person died and was buried. Okay, that's relatively mundane. That happens to a lot of people. What I want to know is what convinces you that this individual was the Son of God. Or more. So
we're going to talk outside of the Bible. All right, we're going to talk right outside of the Bible. There is, just like our government keeps documents of everybody in and out of jail, they keep documents of everything. Back then, they still had documents that they would have handwritten about things that were going on, right? They have found documents outside of the Bible that were written by multiple different people claiming that Jesus did live and that he did die and was buried in a tomb. And when you look at everything,
Zach, I want to be very specific. I've already conceded Jesus lived, he died on the cross, and he was buried. Okay, let's go from that to he was the Son of God. That's what I'm interested in. So I don't contend that Jesus was a real person. That's not useful to me. So let's go for the divine claim, the thing that ties it all together. Because if Jesus was just a regular old Joe, would you be a Christian?
No.
So his existence is not important to whether or not you're a Christian. It's whether or not he was the Son of God, right? That's what's important.
Yep.
Okay, so let's get evidence for that.
On those. Yes. Now going on to those, handwritten documents, there was also a lot of people who had written notes that they have found, that were written back then about things that Jesus has done while he was walking, which does confirm some of the things that the Bible says that Jesus has done. For example, there was this note that was written by a 75-year-old person who was in jail. It was a woman, and she wrote a note to her grandson, or whatever, back when Jesus was walking, claiming that she had seen some of the things that Jesus did and wanted to share the word with somebody else, her grandson, who had not yet heard of Jesus. And she was sharing some of the things that she's seen him do. For example, she put in the note that she saw him, Jesus himself, heal a blind man by spitting in dirt and making it into mud. And that does confirm what the Bible says.
I would be interested in to see if you've got the evidence. Like, where's the source for that letter? Do we actually have a physical copy of that letter, and can we verify the provenance of it, that we know where it came from, who wrote it, and how old it is?
Yeah, I would have to look through this book. The book I talked to you about, New Evidence, Men's Verdict? It actually does have a picture of the handwritten note. I cannot read the note per se, but there is a translation underneath it.
I'm aware of the book written by Josh McDowell, okay? But I just briefly Googled that word combination that you put in. I've read that book, by the way. I don't recall this particular claim in the book. I could be wrong. I have read The Evidence Demands a New Verdict by Josh McDowell. I'm a big fan of his son, Sean McDowell. I've actually talked to him a couple of times. So I don't see any references to that at all. And I've gone through the first 5 pages of Google search. And I can even type it more generally into, say, like Biola University or CARM, any of these sort of apologetic websites, and I don't think I would find anything for that. Do you have any evidence that I would be able to verify, for example?
I'm looking through the contents of the book that we both know of. I'm trying to find where it was located, because I can't remember off the top of my head. This is a big book, because I have the first edition and the second edition, because he has 2 books.
Okay. Do you have anything else? Is that like the apex of your evidence, or do you have something that's even better that you want to share with me?
Well, I want you to think of it, I want you to think of what I'm about to say and kind of put it in your own, shoes almost. Do you think a guy would really, really be so, convinced that if Jesus, let's say, for example, Jesus was not the Messiah, he was not the Son of God, he would know that he's not the Son of God, obviously. Do you think he would be that, dedicated? Do you think he would be that dedicated to prove that he would die on the cross? Because he did die on the cross.
The historical route with it, I don't think that Jesus died on the cross because of anything that he was personally convicted of. And maybe he did, because people who genuinely believe things are willing to die for it. Just take a look at 9/11, 2001. If you genuinely believe something, sometimes people are willing to get themselves killed as a result of that. Now, whether or not that was the case for Jesus, I don't think is particularly compelling, but all we know about Jesus is what other people wrote about him. And oftentimes these people don't agree with each other on some major components of his life. Like, for example, as soon as you brought up his birth, I immediately wanted to know, which one are we talking about? Are we talking about the one in Luke, or are we talking about the one in Matthew? Because they are different and they cannot be reconciled. They're in conflict with one another. So either Luke or Matthew is wrong about the circumstances of Jesus' birth. But I mean, if we're going to grant that the Bible is a book written by men, then that's not, a big problem. If you want to go the route of the Bible as the infallible word of God, then we do have an issue. But
so we do know that the Bible was written by men. That is how it is. God did not come down and use a pen or pencil to write the Bible. I do believe it was influenced by God, though. I don't believe that, God wrote the book. Obviously, men wrote the book. I do believe, though, that God influenced the men who did write the book and told them what he wanted them to write.
So, quick question. How do you know that these men were inspired by God or by the Holy Spirit and they weren't just writing it on their own agenda? How do you demonstrate that to us?
There's so many things that the Bible says. I don't know if you probably, read over the book of Revelations, right?
Sure.
Where it talks about things to expect when Jesus' second coming, which is when Jesus is supposed to come down and the whole rapture happens, right? There's so many things that the Bible talks about, right? We know the Old Testament is all about stories of what God has done before Jesus is coming. The New Testament is Jesus, and then the laws of Christianity, and then it also talks about some things that are supposed to happen in the future. Most of what the Bible has said, we all know that the New Testament was written a little over 2,000 years ago, right? Now, and some of the stuff that they do tell us will happen in the future has come to pass.
You mean like famine, war, and conquest, and disease, things that have been happening throughout all of human history?
I mean, that's only a small part of it, though.
Can you name anything in the book of Revelations that specifically describes an event that can only be interpreted as something that happened recently?
So I'm sure you are aware of where it says that there will be, 7 blood moons that will land on Jewish holidays, right, in a row.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That has already happened, right? Now we all know that blood moons are not that common; they only happen every so many years. But yet, not this year, but the previous 3 years, there were 7 blood moons that all landed on Jewish holidays.
We just have a lot of holidays, so.
And,
JT, can I jump in here?
Go ahead, man.
So Zach, it's Oz. I want to rewind back a little bit. When you and JT were talking at one point, you said that even when Christians have been proven wrong, or it's been shown wrong to them, that they still have a hard time walking away from the religion or the faith. Do you remember saying that?
Yes, I do remember saying that, and I said that would be me personally. But yet, I have not been proven wrong. I don't know how I would react if somebody literally straight up showed me factual, hard evidence that proved the Bible story is wrong. I've yet to be given proof that the Bible story is wrong.
Okay, no, and that's fine. I just want to make sure that I heard you correctly before I move on.
Yeah.
So I want to kind of redirect the conversation a little bit because we could talk about Jesus and the birth, and we get the resurrection and do all, and those are great conversations to have. At the end of the day, and I think that's what JT was asking up front, is why it is that you believe in this God, what convinced you. So the first thing that I want to do is use the scale 1 to 100. 1 meaning God absolutely doesn't exist, and at 100 that you believe that 100% God is real, God exists. Where would you fall on that scale 1 to 100?
I would fall at 99 out of 100. The reason why it's not 100 is, as Christians, we all do have our doubts. There has been plenty of times I've laid in my bed and I was thinking, I believe in something, and then there has been times I've doubted my own religion. That is natural for Christians, but I do 100% believe that God existed in the Christian religion. But like I said, at some point in time, there are times where I do doubt it, and I pray about it, and I do feel reassurance from God that He does exist.
Okay, so you also stated earlier that you're formerly an atheist, now a theist. So you said you're now at a 99% out of 100. That's a big number. So Zach, I'm a former believer of over 30 years and was also in youth ministry and did all those things that you probably do right now. You're at 99. I'm at like 0 or 1. I might give you 1. What got you to that 99? Why do you sit at a 99 right now?
So I'll go back to my story when I said that I read over the book and I prayed, right? I remember asking something to God, right? I asked him, I said, God, if you truly do exist and you do truly love me, please show me where you want me to go, right? Tell me what you want me to do. I mean, that's just a standard question. Like, God, if you are real, lead the way because I'm lost. I don't know where to go. And I feel like that's what a lot of Christians ask. Right now, I had no plan. I was working as a mechanic at the time, right? And I truly thought I felt, God tell me, to quit the job as a mechanic. And I was like, why would I quit the job? Whatever. So I was like, I'll follow what I believe God is telling me to do. So I did quit my job as a mechanic. And about a week later, I got a call from an Army recruiter who ended up saying his exact words were something along the lines of, hey, I don't know how your name came across my table, but interested in enlisting into the military. Of course, I thought it was, okay, maybe God is telling me this is where he wants me to go. This is the route he wants me to take. So I ended up, enlisting in the Army, and I'm actually currently still in the Army. I'm in Virginia. And I get here, whatever. And again, after basic, I get sent here. And again, I pray, God, I feel like there's still more you want me to do. Where do you want me to go from here? About a week later, my aunt comes up to visit me, right? She comes up to visit me every few months or whatever. Her and I are pretty close. And she tells me, she goes, I was looking online, I found this church, right? And I was like, oh, a church, let's go. So she takes me to the church. And when I went and listened to the sermon that the pastor gave, something really hit me. And it just gave me an inner feeling of like, it's hard to explain the feeling of when you do come to Christ fully and you fully submit. And I'm sure you, as a previous believer, you know what that feeling is, right?
Yeah, go. Yeah, proceed. Yep.
But
exactly.
Anyway,
Hold on, JT. Please, I want him to finish that. Hold on a second.
Oh, anyways, and so that day I went down and talked to a guy by the name of he goes by Pastor Andy. He was a youth pastor for like toddlers all the way up through high school.
Shout out to
and
Pastor
started working
Andy.
with him.
Pastor Andy in the house if he's watching.
Yeah. And anyway, so I'm working down there. I'm working in the 4th and 5th grade youth group or kids room or whatever. I was like the 4th and 5th grade teacher or whatever. And then over time, I kind of moved my way up. And then again, I just felt like something was calling me to do something else. Now, I didn't know what that was, so I prayed again, right? And about a week after I made that prayer of, God, where do you want me to go from here? I get a phone call from Grand Canyon University, right? I never talked to them. I've never even applied to college before. Well, they call me and they're like, hey, again, we don't know how your name came across our thing, but are you interested in taking a pastor? Now, what really compelled me is, first of all, how would they get my name? And second of all, why would they assume that is what I wanted to do, is become a pastor? And, of course, I did feel like God was telling me, hey, do this. This is where I want you to go. So I did, apply with them, and I ended up doing a 2-year pastorate program, which only took me about a year and 5 months because, COVID, gave me that free time. But,
okay. So
yeah,
Zach, if I could jump in real quick there, and if JT or Ricky have anything, they can jump in. So the reason I wanted you to the reason I wanted you to finish is I was kind of doing a count there. So in your day-to-day life, let's take religion and faith out of the conversation right now. Let's put that to the side. Do you make career, financial, maybe children, I don't know if you have kids now, you don't have to say, but like those like life-changing type decisions, do you make those decisions based on feelings, or do you make those decisions based on evidence, facts, or at least trends?
As in, like, if I were to buy a house or whatnot?
Yeah, you got God and religion, all that out the window. Do you base those decisions just on how you feel, or do you base it on evidence and numbers and statistics?
it really depends on what you're portraying as. But if it, for example, was a house, I would base it off of interest, my financial income, things that I know of.
So things that you can observe, you can measure, you can see, right? That can be duplicatable. Because here's, and I'll pass it off after this. Here's what I want to that I want to make you aware of is, and I could miss it either under or over by 1 or 2, but I counted at least 7 times that you, in that process, you talked about the word feeling, that you felt something, you had a feeling. Feelings don't bring us to truth necessarily. That's why I'm not a big fan of faith or feelings, because they usually are not a reliable pathway to finding true things. So where I would challenge you is how were you how are you getting to truth? How are you gaining knowledge? Because what I heard so far is you're just going on, you pray and you feel. You pray and you feel. That doesn't make it true.
So hold on real quick.
I do.
Let me jump in here, Pastor Zach, if you don't mind.
Go ahead, Rick.
Thanks. Because you and I have a very similar story. We're both veterans, right? So real recognize real. I tried to join the military at the age of 18. Something I haven't told anybody is I was rejected because I had a gunshot wound in my shoulder from a robbery. I was a bagger at a grocery store called Food Lion. We got robbed, and I got shot through the shoulder. I tried to join the military after that, and they had told me that because of your injuries, you can't join. And I was devastated, but I was a just diehard Christian at the time, and I thought, this is God's will for me. God doesn't want me to join the military right now. So fast forward a couple of years, my life still wasn't going anywhere, and I tried again. And this time, I didn't tell them about my gunshot wound, and they were none the wiser. And I got in, did my contract. I'm still in the National Guard in Pennsylvania. So there we are now. But at the time, it was very easy to say or to think that this is God's will for me. Like that's where I was at in my head. That's how I created comfort for the fact that I was rejected by this. This is God's plan for me. It's very easy to do that for really any situation in your life. It provides a genuine comfort for people. It really does. And even when I did finally join the military, I was like, oh, now God wants me in the military. So you see where I'm getting here. Like no matter what happens in your life, you think that God has some sort of plan for it. Now, once you're on the other side and you become an atheist, you realize life is just chaos. There's no rhyme or reason or prediction for any of it. It's random, and you just have to go with the flow. And you stop believing that there is some celestial entity that is overseeing everything. You realize that life is nuts. So how do you hear what I just say and then apply that to what you've gone through? Like, do you still think, like, you're still challenging yourself that, yeah, maybe life is nuts, or do you really think God actually had these ideas and these plans for your life?
So personally, I do believe life is freaking crazy. That is just how it is, right?
Yeah, hard
God
to doubt
also
that.
allows free will to make your own decisions. Right now, I do believe that God does have a plan for every person, and how we get to that plan is not necessarily up to him, right? He does have think of it, this is how I try to explain to people. I try to tell them, think of you're going somewhere and there's a straight highway. I mean, it's straight. Like you just go straight down this road, like 100 miles and you're there, right? But then there's all those other exits and different roads you could take, right? Now imagine you were to take the wrong turn. Now, can you still find your way back onto the highway, or can you still find your way back to that place where you're supposed to go, even though you took a wrong turn? And I personally believe that, God works the same way. He has that straight road for everybody, to lead to where he wants them to be. But as Christians and as just normal human beings who are full of sin and do things against God, that we tend to take that wrong turn and we tend to go off that path that God has for us. But that doesn't mean that it's impossible to get back onto that path or impossible to still make it to where God wants us to be. regardless on what turn we've taken, because we all know there's hundreds of ways to get home, even though there is that straight road.
Zach, just out of curiosity, how do you determine whether or not your life is going in accordance to God's plan? Is it just if it's going well, that's God's plan, and if not, then it's not going according to God's plan? What if you're being tested? How do you determine the difference? Is there
I do
a way
believe God has us go through. Can you say that again? My phone cut out for a second.
Is there a way for you to reliably determine the difference between an event that happens in your life that's part of God's plan and an event that happens in your life that isn't?
So, I do believe God allows us to go through what I call trials, tribulations, tests, right?
So then it's all part of God's plan.
Yep. I do believe God allows us to go through those things.
That line of questioning. So on the blood moon thing, I actually looked it up. Blood moons occur twice a year. Now, the interesting thing about a celestial events like that is that you can't always see them all the time. They're only visible on certain parts of the globe. So it's probably the case that many blood moons have fallen on Jewish holidays, especially since they tend to happen in the fall and the spring where Jewish holidays occur. And then Jews also use a shorter calendar than we do. Theirs is about 6.5 months because their calendar is based off of the lunar year. So the odds of a blood moon falling on a Jewish holiday are not that high, and especially for consecutive. I mean, you give it 2,000 years, it's bound to happen at some point consecutively, if not before, and we just never knew it because we didn't see the blood moon, right? Sometimes a blood moon is visible on a particular point in the globe, and there just wasn't anybody around there to document it. Like how many blood moons occurred over the Americas before they were landed, before they were discovered by the Europeans, and written records were taken of the celestial events that occurred in the Americas. I would venture to guess there were quite a few of them that happened. So that's a very odd way of kind of saying that God is in control of things, is just pointing out these coincidences of celestial events. But just out of curiosity, if you hadn't already had the emotional appeal, would that blood moon thing convince you?
Not the blood moons itself, but there are other things. I want you to, and something I can, share with you that I'm sure you know of is hurricanes, now minus the last 3 years, are not that often, right? They only happen ever so often. But if you look at the last
where's the data for that? Do you have weather data from 2,000 years ago to determine how often hurricanes happened?
No. What I'm saying is look at from 3 years ago to 10 years ago. Hurricanes did not happen that often. But if you look at the last 3 years, you had multiple hurricanes
they don't hit land.
Year.
All right, hey, guys, I'm gonna jump in here. So the original topic was, should we respect a belief, and now we're talking about hurricanes and shit. So I'm gonna try to bring this back, and all that can be talked about, just not tonight. So what I do want to do is circle back around to a point or two that JT and Ricky brought up. That kind of blend in together. So, Zach, given that you're pastor, a youth pastor, I'm assuming you're pretty well versed in the scriptures. So, are you familiar with the scripture that says that God is not the author of confusion?
I'm familiar with it, but I don't remember what it is from. I don't remember all of the scripture names and whatnot, but I do remember seeing that.
Okay. The reason I bring that up is because when I'm listening tonight, we all sound like we're confused, and we're all pretty smart fellows on here tonight. And there's a lot of confusion on what is and what is not. And we are, according to your religious and worldviews, we're all under the overseeing of this all-knowing, all-powerful, all-loving God. But yet he seems to be the author of this confusion. So then to bring it back around to it, I still want to know, before you hang up tonight, I want to know, other than feelings, unless feelings is it, other than feelings, why you believe in your particular God.
Can I address that God is not the author of confusion just before I go into that?
1 Corinthians 14, by the way.
Nice.
Yep. But can I just jump into that real quick and say something?
Sure.
All right. So you're right. God is not the author of confusion. And when you said that, because we all do sound confused, and I do admit it does seem that way, that God would then be the author of confusion. I do not believe that, right? God is not, hateful, lustful. Those things do not come from God. those things, I do, believe that they come from Satan, right? And we all know of, Satan. It's pretty well talked about in the Bible and in Christianity and really all over every religion. That Satan is the author of those things, right? Satan seeks to kill, steal, destroy, and to pretty much ruin everything that God has for anybody's life or what God is trying to do.
And Zach, my great points. And being a former believer, I would, if I was still on your sitting on your side of the table, I'd agree with you. But I guess the kind of the end of that conversation is then who created Satan? Who created the devil?
Satan was originally an angel of God, right? He was actually one of the more powerful angels.
That's fine, but you still have to answer the question. You still have to answer that.
Yeah, God created Satan.
Okay. So that's it. That's the end of the conversation. And we could, again, you can call back in another night and we could talk about that. But that's the end of that. That one with confusion and who created what. That is what it is.
Hey guys. Hey, first of all, Captain Dadpool, thanks for joining the stream. Appreciate it, man. We got Rick in the house.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
JT, thanks for hanging out all night. God damn it, bro. I know you probably wanted to smoke 1 million cigarettes, but thanks for hanging out, man. And Oz over there drinking that cheap-ass whiskey from the dollar store.
I wish I could get whiskey for $1.
You guys be drinking that ex-Christian whiskey. Oh, man. Look, you still on the line, Zach?
Yes, I am.
You friends with Chase?
I do not know who that is.
Well, hey, Chase is in the chat. Big shout out to Chase. He's a friend of ours, and he was going to bat for you, so...
Okay.
Yeah. So, hey, look, call back in another time. You seem like a really nice young man, and you obviously have a lot to talk about. So call back in again. Would love to chat with you.
Of course. When do you do your streams?
All the time.
All the time. We're very sporadic. We do it under the Atheist God's plan. We just kind of roll with it.
Okay. Sure thing.
Yeah. Appreciate it, man. You have a wonderful night, man. Take care.
Yeah, you guys too. Thank you guys so much.
Anytime.
Have a good one, Zach.
Zach, everybody. What a nice guy.
He's a nice guy.
What a really nice, cool guy.
I like him.
We're at the 2 hours and 10-minute mark, and I'd like to wrap. Look, if you guys want to chat backstage when I'm done, you can, because I know the champagne be popping.
I'd love to.
Yeah. Let me just Zach's information off the screen here. Just want to thank everybody for joining the Atheist Roundtable tonight and hanging out, dropping chats in there, dropping questions, badgering Oz about his education. I saw that, guys, picking on Oz. He actually went to Everest College, class of February. Got his, what was it, Oz? What did he get?
I have my doctorate in no fucks given.
That's right. Hey, but Rick, thank you for your military service and sacrifice, man. You earned your degree, my man.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Respect the troops.
JT, what you been doing, man? What you been doing to the studies?
I study chess. That's my thing. I'm a nerd.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. JT and I were talking backstage earlier. He's a big brother, right? You're like almost like a dad brother.
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Kudos, man. Takes a lot to look after your siblings like that.
Mm-hmm.
Don't forget, Mike Brigandy's taking on 2 Calvinists tomorrow that will remain nameless till the stream. And this is at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's going to chat about morality, veganism. Why do atheists feel compelled to care about animals? They want to chat about that. They want to chat. They want to get into it. They want to do what they want to do, Oz?
They want to debate, on
they want to do a deep
atheism?
dive, goddammit. A goddamn deep dive.
You didn't give me time. I was going to do a build-up. God damn it.
God damn it, Oz. God damn it. Thor damn it. Zeus damn it. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. That's the Atheist Roundtable call-in show. K-Nav's bailed on us tonight, guys. Can you believe that? She said she had to do mom duties. God damn it.
I feel personally offended by that.
Excuses. Nothing but excuses.
Like she's a parent.
Fucking kids.
Yeah. Don't you have a pantry to put your children in or something?
That's what I do.
Yeah. Hey, if you're a big fan of GeoSam, pat yourself on the back because that motherfucker's cool as hell, right, Oz?
Hell yeah. And if you ask him, he's got a story about moving handprints and shit.
Yeah. And a big shout going out to Prime. Respect. Big shout going out to all the massive large in that area.
Yeah, man. The Boomba Clap boy.
And if you haven't already, please hit that join. Join the Atheist Roundtable community. Support the cause. Oz has a penchant for sushi as well.